Hello and welcome to the MMA Live Chat Show. I'm Rich Davie and it's Monday, March 24th, 2014. On today's show, we'll be discussing MMA news. We'll talk about the MMA Expo 2014 with Shelley Evans. On today's show, we have yours truly, David Gazelle, David Petruitt, and Shelley Evans. Thanks for taking part in another show, people. I appreciate you all taking the time to be here and joining me to discuss the MMA Expo 2014 with Shelley Evans. Go ahead and say hello to anybody that might be listening.
Howdy there, fight fans.
Thanks for having me, Rich. Glad to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
You're quite welcome. Okay, thanks all for being here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this over to Shelley right now. Go ahead, Shelley, introduce yourself, tell us about yourself, and go ahead and let us know about the MMA Expo 2014.
Okay, yes, I'm Shelley Evans with the Martial Arts Expo, and it's going to be in Muskogee, Oklahoma at the Muskogee Civic Center. And the whole thought process here is to kind of bring in and help all of martial arts converge together to one place of training, from traditional martial arts up through MMA to the mainstream MMA, and kind of converging the paths together to where, you know, to help garner and more respect for each other and realize that there's something to learn from everyone, every style, every technique that's out there. It's kind of an amazing opportunity to get to learn from some of the instructors that we're bringing in. Bill Superfoot Wallace, you know, he has been the world champion when it first was dubbed in fighting. You know, you've got your kickboxing and your full contact karate. He held the reins in the world championships for 6 years running, retiring undefeated with 23 wins, and he's coming in and helping us put on this expo. And also he was one of the original commentators for the first UFC 1 fights. And Kathy Long, she was sitting right there alongside him, and both of them will be on our headliner cards at the expo, as well as Judo Olympian Pat Burris. We have Ajarn Greg Nelson, who is the coach and instructor of Brock Lesnar and several other UFC fighters. He's going to be coming in and helping with Muay Thai and MMA instruction. And it's just a full gamut of martial arts experience that you'll be able to get there. And there's all sorts of things going on in Muskogee at that time. The Renaissance Festival's there, and we'll have the flair of Muskogee and what's going on there inside that, and put on some really good shows and some really good demonstrations. Dale Apollo Cook, he's also many time over shoot boxing and kickboxing world champion, and he is currently Oklahoma's top fight promoter, manages a lot of the fighters coming out of Oklahoma, and he's going to be doing some special guest speaker for us at the VIP dinner, and kind of giving the coaches and the fighters here locally an idea and insight of what it takes to really get known and get your name out there and get those fights, and what you need to be doing in your training camps. It's for $129 for the 2-day event. It's kind of amazing because you can pay that to just get to learn with one instructor for a few hours at a time, and you're going to have 2 full days of training. There'll be fights, MMA fights on Friday night with Tribal MMA running that card. And it is going to be an awesome experience, and we're just really looking forward to seeing what we can do. We just want to beef up the heart of martial arts in this whole community, bringing in people from surrounding states, and we're getting a lot of interest in the whole event.
Yeah, I noticed that when you posted the information on the forum, because we actually met each other on Twitter, and you contacted me asking me if we would have time to speak about the expo on the show. I said, of course, I'm glad to help you out with that. And as soon as we put that information up, I noticed that lots of people on Twitter started retweeting and looking at the thread where we posted that. So yeah, definitely there's a lot of interest in that MMA expo.
Yes. And I appreciate your help in helping us get the word out.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. And like I said to you earlier there, what we'll do is we'll also go ahead and we'll do another show where we can actually sit down and we'll dedicate the whole show to the expo, and then we'll pump that out periodically and get people to support the MMA Expo. I'm sure in that general area, I did notice that there was a lot of support from that general area when we posted that and retweeted it and things like that. So hopefully, once we make that other show, you could feel free to go ahead and bump that out and keep on promoting that as a sort of commercial for you.
I appreciate that so much.
Okay. Guys, you have any comments or questions about this?
Yeah, what is the Girls and Geese?
Oh, that's actually going to be Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon.
What is it, though? Is it?
Oh, what is it? It's actually the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community of women have gotten together, and a lot of times the women feel they're a little apprehensive of getting out there when they've got to roll with the men, and there's only 2 or 3 women in their gym, and it can get a little disheartening and a little discouraging for them. So they came up with the idea of Girls and Geese getting together, and it's a free event, free of charge typically, and they come up and they will start a new organization in the local areas, help converge and bring the top female jiu-jitsu practitioners in their area together to start organizing and running get-togethers. So these girls have a place to go and a place to train with other women on a more regular basis and just get that general community support. And it's really going off. The first one that we had here, we had like 60 or 70 people at it, people coming in from Kansas and up from Texas. It was really a pretty neat event.
Yeah, that's not what I was thinking, but that actually sounds better than what I was thinking. Yeah, because there is always that hesitation from women to necessarily jump into a martial arts class with a bunch of men. So.
Right. And there's a multitude of reasons for that. It could be past experiences, or it could just be that claustrophobic feeling when they have someone close. A lot of them, it's not just working with men, it's even just working with anybody that close in your space, and it's needing to take those steps to kind of climb and get your nerve up to go the distance. So.
Yeah, well, we also saw what happened with the Ultimate Fighter female winner, Pena, or.
No, yeah, Pena.
Yeah.
Didn't she get hurt or something?
Yeah, she got hurt, and she is training with men. So
yes.
A lot of the women in the professional level of mixed martial arts actually train with men, and a lot of them are probably wish that they could actually train with women. I know a lot of them say they want to train with men, but when you saw what happened to Pena and her situation, wins the tough women's finale, and now she's out for an indefinite period of time because of that injury from training. So yeah, I can see the reason for women to want to train with women.
Yeah, I think there's a need in some regards. I've trained with men throughout my entire training session and stuff, and there's a huge benefit to training with men, but there's also a huge benefit to being able to train with women as well. And I had trained at one school, we had very few women, and when I moved schools, it's like, we had a lot of women there, and it was just like, oh, goody. It makes a huge difference in being able to compare yourself at a different level. So.
David, you have a comment.
Yeah. Well, what would you like for people that may be watching this week that are in the Muskogee area? That might, some people feel a little shy or a little tentative, and maybe sometimes they are interested, but they might feel like a little, everybody would know too much compared to them. How would you get somebody like that to come to your event?
Oh wow, these instructors are phenomenal, and it is like anyone from 6 years old to 90 years old. It doesn't matter if you've had training or not training. They will make you feel completely special.
That's awesome.
If you can go in there and your kicks are terrible, it doesn't matter what. There's a lot of people who have been training for a long time that can't kick, just plain and simple. And if you want to tweak your kicks, improve your kicks, if you have great kicks but they need to be honed a little bit more, it's the place to be. If you can't kick, it's the place to get the breakdown and to know and just take it a little step further. So it's really an amazing event for anybody at any level.
So anybody knowledge-wise, skill-wise, everybody's welcome to come down.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And if you just want to come watch, you can.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might want to tell people where they can find more info on this as well. Like
yes, actually, we have a website up, and that is it's themartialartsexpo.com. There's dashes between every word, so it's the-martial-expo.com. and you can find a lot of information on the different headliners that we have, and we're consistently updating that. So, and you can also, give us a call. You can call me directly at 405-562-0373 as well. We're on Facebook at the Martial Arts Expo, and also on Twitter at the Martial Arts E. So.
And another one, what made you decide that focusing on the respect and the honor that the traditional martial arts bring, what made you decide to kind of focus that with what the mixed martial arts is now? Because sometimes I see that new competitors that come in, they don't have a martial arts background, and they're jumping into this MMA world, and they're not, such as John Jones, who we've had frequent discussions about. He doesn't seem to really carry himself with the true esteem and honor that a martial artist should. And I was just wondering what led you to really have that as a focus as one of your things at the expo.
I think it's important for the people who are coming in and just saying, going out there and saying I train MMA, and not going out there and looking at the history of why did MMA come about. I have a traditional background, and I fought in tournament circuits and along those lines, continuous sparring and everything else at different levels. And then when it got more, when I was able to go into the cage, do MMA fights, Muay Thai fights, and things along those lines, I loved that next level of challenging myself, of just testing myself. And so I've seen the gamut of the traditional all the way up through jumping in that ring and really testing yourself out at a different level. And there's really respect to be had for all of them. And of course, the people with the true traditional arts background, they've got a lot of base knowledge to start from. And there is a lot of honor and a lot of respect that comes with that. And sometimes we do lose that focus in just the fighters that come into the gym, and that's all they're focusing for. And the ones I feel like truly go on and are the top-notch people and fighters and have the biggest chance are those who do have, do respect that little bit of traditional, and they go train traditional. I think that they really can hone their game, and even if they don't start that way and they have really good talent where they're at, they'll still end up going to get some traditional training before it's all said and done.
What's the main discipline that out of all the people that are going to be there being showcased?
Oh, the main discipline. Well, we do have a lot of kickboxing, full contact karate, with Bill and Kathy both. But Kathy's also going to be putting on some Sansu Kung Fu seminars. We're going to have the jiu-jitsu, the judo, Olympic weightlifting is even going to be demonstrated. That's kind of getting big in the area, and I think their world's competition or their state competition, is actually the weekend before here in Oklahoma. So we also have, the MMA and the Muay Thai with Ajarn Greg Nelson coming in. We're going to have a lot of different things showcased, but Taekwondo, the Taekwondo schools bring Bill Wallace and Kathy in on a regular basis to do seminars. So it's kind of a full gamut. There's not any traditional art will have something there that they really will enjoy.
That's good.
I'm so glad to hear you embracing and promoting the martial arts aspect of the whole sport, because again, we go back and forth, and I've been given a lot of grief for saying that I don't like the fighters who are brash and they don't honor the respect and traditional aspects that martial arts imparts.
Right.
And a lot of people give me a hard time for that because, well, that's got nothing to do with MMA. Well, of course it does. Mixed martial arts. You come from a traditional background of martial arts, and we're seeing like a lot of people coming in today, and they just don't embrace that respect aspect of martial arts at all. And that's really, I'm seeing it's turning off a lot of older fans they're pretty much saying, well, I'm pretty much done with the sport because I don't like the trash talk, I don't like the disrespect that's going on. So it's good to see that, you're following that and trying to promote that aspect of the sport.
And I think in a sense it comes full circle. Sometimes you go in that where people try to get away, but then you kind of at some point have to go back to your roots. And if you really look at it, the full contact karate and all that began, with Bill Wallace and Joe Louis and Jeff Smith. They were our first 3 world champions in that aspect. And that's they came from before the time before there was no gear. They can describe to you how the hand gear was. They didn't have all the mouthpieces made up that we have now. So when they were getting in there and taking a punch, they were truly taking those punches. And it's just, if they know the history of the sport and they know the history of martial arts and how the fighting all began, it all had to start somewhere. And it's really a good history lesson to sit down and hear some of these people talk. And we will be having interview sessions with some of these people who've been there, done that. They've seen it all. They've seen it from the beginning. They've lived it through the beginning and see where it is today and where they think it's going to go. So.
Well, that's awesome. Maybe we can get some of those people on the next show that we're going to do together, where you could get a group of those people together and you could sit there and talk about it on the show. I'd
love to schedule it where we could. That would be great.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Any other comments that you all want to make here?
Who's your favorite female fighter and who's your favorite male fighter for mixed martial arts?
Wow. Favorites. That's one thing. It's like I try not to really pull out my favorites along those lines. I do really like what Ronda Rousey has done, but I don't know as far as, and then you go to the tainting of Chris Cyborg with her history of the steroids, but at what time do you let that go and you just say, okay, what's she got now? I'm really excited to see her in her Muay Thai match coming up and see what she's got at this point. But I think Liz Carmouche, I'm looking for her to get a rematch with Ronda Rousey at some point,
Awesome.
And,
yeah, I like Carmouche.
Yeah. And I'd like to see Anderson Silva have that comeback. That kind of an injury is just, it's hard to come back from, and I'd like to see that he could do it. I don't know if he's got it in him, because that's a hard injury.
Unfortunately, he's starting to have second thoughts now, because right after he was injured, I actually suffered a similar injury that Anderson Silva sustained as well in that fight against Chris Weidman, and I said no way at all that he's ever going to come back in 2014. to be 2015, mid or late 2015. And he immediately, within a month, he was out of the cast. He had an air cast on. He was starting to train again. And then he said he was going to come back at the end of 2014. But he just came out the other day and said, I'm done for 2014. I won't be back. I'm probably done as far as championship contention goes. And he says, I probably won't be back until maybe mid-2015. So that's more realistic and more along the lines
of what I was thinking. Definitely, yeah. And also, if you got to look at it, it's when you just look at it like a knockout in the ring. When you get knocked out, there's a element of gun shyness that comes back in. You get almost too cautious and too wary. And in a sense, I think that second fight, he was being a little cautious and a little wary. That wasn't a normal Anderson Silva kick that got that leg broke. Yeah. And it's still, once you get that leg broke, that's even worse. It's kind of, an injury like that is hard to recoup from. And as far as women, when you're asking my favorite women's fighters, I really love watching Michelle Watterson fight too.
I love her. I interviewed her, and she was the sweetest person, probably from most of the MMA fighters that I've spoken to, but she was really nice. I interviewed her last year during Mother's Day, actually, and she was a very nice, very down-to-earth, sweet individual.
Yeah, she seems to be, and it's just, and I'm a kicker. I love to kick, and she's got some good kicks, so she's fun to watch.
Well, if you got a chance, listen to that interview I did with her. It's on the YouTube page.
I will definitely do that.
She was really sweet, very nice. I mean, we actually spoke a lot longer than that, but I always wind up editing the shows, and we try to fit them into an hour time frame, but we went on, and she spoke about all kinds of things, and that was at the time where I was telling her that more than likely there will be a 115-pound division, and I'd love to see her there, but she didn't have a whole lot to say about that. But she did seem to think that the women's MMA and UFC was going to grow even more.
Well,
that's I'd spoken with Megumi Fuji, and she sees women's MMA as just exploding and just getting, like, from when she first started and the way it is now. She seemed very happy at how women's MMA has progressed. So, and she's a really neat person, actually. So,
well, it's just so weird how, and I know there were a lot of women fighters before Gina Carano, but Gina Carano, because she was such an attractive and lovely woman, she really brought women's MMA to the forefront. in Elite XC and Strikeforce there, but it's just a shame that the way she just disappeared after that fight with Cyborg and how people just discredited her. And I actually wrote an article on her as well, and I just couldn't understand why people were not giving Gina Carano the respect that she deserves. Well, what has she done? What are her skills? Well, go look at her record.
Right, right.
So,
And, you know, especially when it comes out that Cyborg, you know, at that point, she was tainted, you know, and she was a beast. And it's Gina Carano's definitely paid her dues in that ring, and it would be nice to see her come back and fight. But, you know, when she's making a living right now off some movies and off of that phase too, so I don't know that it's in her best interest, but she might make a comeback.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, they're starting to talk about, there's some chatter going on about who Ronda Rousey's next opponent is going to be. They're trying to say it's either going to be Cyborg or Holly Holm or Gina Carano.
Right.
But pretty much they're saying Carano is out because if she did come back, she's a 145er. To get her down to 135, probably not going to happen. Rousey did say she would fight her at a catch weight of 140, but again, that's not going to happen because Carano's been out for quite a while.
Right.
And Cyborg, I don't know if I like that matchup there because I think Cyborg actually would need to cut weight, come down to 135, fight a couple of fights at 135, prove that you can make the weight, that you're interested in fighting at that weight in that division, and then maybe get a shot at Rousey or whoever may be the champ at that time. And then, of course, you got Holly Holm. I'm not quite sure what her weight class is. Do any of you know?
No, I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I think the talks actually were very bad, and Dana White had actually said they weren't going to talk again.
Well, DFW does not like brash management, and that's what I understood was the problem with Holly Holm.
Yeah.
He didn't care for the management. So when DFW gets a bug up his butt about management, you can pretty much, I mean, look what happened with Gilbert Melendez, you know? Lucky they got him back in the UFC after that whole fiasco that went on there with his management. So, you know, it's a shame. So apparently everything is up in the air with Ronda Rousey as to who she's going to be fighting next. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing any one of those fight. But again, like I say, Carano, been out too long. 145, going to take her a while to get to 135.
Right.
I don't think a catchweight fight would make any sense between her and Rousey. Cyborg, I mean, I'd like to see her come down, but again, when you look at her past, and like we're saying, she's got that tainted, you know, past with the steroids, and when you look at her physique, the way that it transformed from when she used to be a somewhat slender female fighter into, you know, that physique that she has now, it's kind of hard to say. You know, initially there was that talk about how she couldn't cut to 135 because she would die, literally die if she made the cut. But that proved to be that's not the issue. It all had to do with money and respect is what she said.
Well, and it's not going to be easy for her because even at the 145, when you look at her in the weigh-ins, her body fat content, you know, is typically one of the lowest body fat contents getting up there on those scales.
Exactly.
So
that's what I was saying.
It will be hard to make that 135, I think, for her.
Exactly. When you have that muscle mass, muscle is way heavier than fat.
Yes.
If you don't have any fat to cut, it's going to be hard to cut the weight.
Yeah, you're cutting muscle, and how healthy is that? So.
Exactly.
I'm a believer in, like, with the fighters in that weight cut sense, I'm a believer in, you know, other than a fighter that would be greatly disadvantaged by height or something like that, but people fighting at their natural weights, I think it's much healthier for the fighter. And
me too.
Absolutely.
I like that too. And you know what? Let's get everyone's opinion here on this real quick. I actually spoke to a few fighters, and a few fighters actually told me that they would prefer same-day weigh-ins so that people could stop trying to game the system and fighting below a weight class and then coming into the event and fighting above the weight class that they're fighting. So what do you guys think on that? Do you think same-day weigh-ins is a good thing, bad thing? Should they keep it the way that it is now?
Definitely. Same day.
Yeah.
I've been asking for that forever because it's kind of like the bully, you know, fighting a smaller guy. I mean, look at Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks is a perfect example of this. He walks around at 45. He cuts 45 pounds to fight at welterweight. He actually should be fighting light heavyweight to possibly even heavyweight, you know, and that's unhealthy to cut that much weight and to do it numerous times. I mean, we've seen diets, how diets can go bad for people, and when you're doing it over and over and over, that's not good on your body.
Yeah, Ivan Menjivar, I interviewed him and I asked him specifically about that, and he said if they did go to same-day weigh-ins, he would actually fight in the weight class that he actually belonged in.
Right.
That's the way it should be. I mean, fight the people that you are actually meant to fight is the way I see it. Yeah. Don't go down. Don't go down and wait to gain an advantage.
Yeah, and I actually got a lot of grief from people for saying this, but David, what do you think?
Same-day weigh-ins would be great. I believe that would make fighters fight at their true weight classes, and I'm all for that. I'm all about athletes having longevity in the sport, being as healthy as they possibly can be. I mean, they risk and sacrifice so much for our entertainment. I would like it to actually make sure that, and that weight cut is terrible for some people. So
last year we saw one fighter die from cutting weight.
Yeah.
I can't recall the guy's name. We actually did a show on it, but we wound up not releasing the show.
I was trying to think of his name actually. Yeah.
He cut like 60 pounds, and he actually died on the scales. They carried him off, and he had passed away from cutting so much weight. So
it's horrific. It's horrific, and I would like to see more mandates with keeping athletes safe. Definitely.
Yeah, I would.
What do you think, Shelley?
Well, I've seen in the training process them putting on those sweatsuits and cutting, and I've seen the color drain out of the fighters' faces, and and their energy level drop so low for those couple of weeks and stuff before that they're really trying to push that bottom loss. I really would like to see the truth in waiting, and I do believe the same-day weigh-ins is about the only way you are going to find that, and as a fighter, I wouldn't want to go cut a lot of weight and cut a lot of water weight. It isn't healthy. It's not good for your hormones. It's not good for anything that you're doing. And if I truly wanted to fight people my size, I'd have to drop down, 10, 15 pounds every time I wanted to fight. And at this point, just fighting the people that weigh what I walk around at, it's impossible unless I do cut like that. I would have to, fight people that come fight time, they're going to outweigh me by 20 pounds. So it's just a given.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. We've seen that so much in the UFC, too. And it's like you're watching two guys fight, and one guy looks like he's in a total weight class different from the other. And it's like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 pounds, give or take, I don't see an issue with that because people's body weight does fluctuate within 10 pounds. I could see them do the same day weigh-in, up the pound over to 2 instead of 1, and and let it go that way. That would be awesome, but I don't see the UFC doing that.
Yeah.
Well, the athletes would just have to, the fighters would have to get a different mentality. It's not about who can cut weight the best anymore. It is about who trains the hardest. And they can focus everything on training in a healthy fashion and not worry about cutting that weight.
Yeah, and if you look at Anthony Johnson, he's fought at the lower weight classes, but he's had success now at light heavyweight. So it's like,
well, he was always walking around at 220. He was cutting from 220, 230 down to 170, and eventually that's what got him fired from the UFC because he couldn't make the 170 any longer.
Yeah, but why go down there when you can prove you can have success at a weight class closer to you?
Well, I think the firing from the UFC is what made him realize that. He left and went and fought elsewhere. Now he's been rehired by the UFC, so I'm hoping he does well because I like the guy. Very respectful. Yeah. I follow him on Facebook. Always has positive things to say. He's always trying to motivate people positively. Seems like a really genuinely good person.
Yeah, and unfortunately with the weight cuts and stuff, other fighters feel they have to do it to compete, so they're... Yeah. You've got multiple people that are cutting weight to fight at a division because they feel they're not like the Frankie Edgars where when he fought at lightweight where he fought at his natural weight, and everybody else is cutting weight to fight at lightweight. And Edgar would do good against these guys, but when you look at your division and you see that these are 170-pound guys or 180-pound guys fighting at 155. You're not really wanting to fight at 155 knowing that you're going to fight somebody that's that much bigger.
Perfect example. Look at Jose Aldo. He looks gigantic compared to everyone he fights. His shoulders, his arms, his legs, everything about him is bigger than his opponents. He's jacked in that weight division.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and the bigger you are, the more weight you have to lose, the more water weight you can cut in a fast fashion. So if you've got two people fighting in the same division, one has 5 pounds to lose, and the other one has to cut 25 pounds. Well, the majority of what they're cutting is that water weight, just hydration and everything else, and they are just going to balloon right back up overnight.
Yeah.
And the difference is huge.
Yeah, Hendricks put on 30 pounds in less than 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not. 30 pounds in less than 12 hours. Because I followed that Dolce thing because I was so curious about him missing weight. I wanted to see what would happen. So I followed Dolce's tweets and his updates. And yeah, it was less than 12 hours. He was back up at 198.5.
Oh my gosh. Maybe
that's insane.
Maybe that's why he didn't look so good in the fight.
Yeah. Isn't that nuts? And
It is
it's crazy.
To me, I mean, if you look at it,
starving your body.
Yeah.
When you start starving your body like that, your body starts eating muscle.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, there's some of them that really have it down to an art, and they really do know how to feed that body and bounce back more quickly. It takes some doing and some working with some really good personal trainers and things along those lines, but they've got it to an art.
Yeah, I think the Dolce diet is pretty much the best one out there for cutting weight.
Well, whatever Tito was doing back in the day, though, because Tito had to, I think he would normally walk around, I think it was at 230 about, and so he had to get down to 205. But apparently his method, and I don't know much about his method, but Tito Ortiz apparently had it down to literally that perfect science, where he wasn't really depleting himself. Come fight time, he was back to just being Tito Ortiz, but there are very, very few fighters that can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up the show here. Shelley, I'm so glad you came on and decided to join us. I had a great time with you. I hope that we can help you out with the MMA Expo 2014. And as I said, we'll go ahead and we'll do another show with you on that. And if you can bring on some more people to speak about things that you want to speak about, that would be fine with me as well.
Okay, that would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, we've reached the end of the show. I want to thank you all for being here. It's time to say goodbye. So if you want to say goodbye, everybody, go ahead and say hello to whoever you might want to say hello and goodbye to.
Goodbye, everyone. It's been nice meeting you, Shelley.
It's nice to meet you guys, too. Thank you. And goodbye.
Great to meet you, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and all our winters end soon for those of us that are still afflicted with the winter.
Okay, Shelley, one more time, info about the MMA Expo 2014.
It's May 30th and 31st at the Muskogee Convention Center. Some amazing headliners. Everybody in all walks of martial arts and competition, from traditional to mainstream MMA. They will have a great time, and we hope they can all join us.
Okay, and we'll help you promote that as well. Okay, everybody, thanks again for joining me. I appreciate you all being here, and we'll see you next time. So, goodbye.